All right, welcome back to the channel. So here we are again with my number 2 bike review, and this is my 2023 Beta 350 Race Edition. So we're going to go through the bike the same way we did on the 300. There's not as much to go through on this one, and then we'll get out for a bit of a ride. So again, 2023 Beta 350 Race Edition. This comes with KYB suspension, front and rear for 2023. That's a new addition for the 2023 race editions. And so far, very, very positive. So I like it a lot. No KYB stickers, unfortunately. I have to pick a set of those up because I should be repping the KYB stuff on there. So let's start at the front. So basically, this bike is, I mean, pretty close to stock. They come fairly well equipped from the factory as a race edition, a few bling parts, so on and so forth. But we'll just take a look at the control area. So very first thing, you can see the top of the KYB there. So no work done on the KYB on this bike. Stock controls all around. I've kept the headlight. I've kept the dash so far. However, my dash, as you'll see in videos, does not work. It doesn't pick up the speed and it doesn't pick up the hour meter. That is because I've switched out the wheel set and I haven't put the magnet in there. So one thing to be wary of, or be aware of, I guess would be a more accurate term to use for betas, is that your hour meter from the factory will only work if the front wheel is spinning. And so it doesn't pick up like a regular hour meter off of the ignition or off the spark plug wire. This is based on the front wheel spinning. So if your bike is started, it's not going to be ticking over unless the front wheel is spinning. And so what does that mean? Well, that means that your speedometer cable needs to be working, and it means that you need to have a magnet installed in the front disc, which I just do not have. I track my hours in a different way. It doesn't bother me. I never look at my speedometer. I may actually take that dash off, because unless you're going to make these things street legal, I personally feel like the information I get off that is not very valuable, at least for me. So that's the front end there. Stock controls. The only thing I've added is I've added some aluminum bar ends because I don't run wraparound. So cut the grips and put some aluminum bar ends in there, anodized red, so they look kind of cool. But that's about it. Now, I spoke about the clutch on the 300. I'm using a Clake One Light clutch. Listen, the clutch pull on these things with the new diaphragm clutch is so light, it's ridiculous. I don't see why you would need to do any modifications on these new 2023 betas, on the race editions, or even the standard models with those diaphragm clutches. They are fantastic. Okay, we got some stock beta handguards. They're pretty cheap. But you know what? They've done the trick, and they've saved me buying new handguards. So I've tried to be a little bit more economical this year in my purchasing for parts, and they're doing the trick just fine. They don't guard against tree strikes and stuff like that. But in all honesty, what I use this bike for, that hasn't been an issue. I've kept the headlight on there. Comes with a number plate, but so far I'm using the headlight. Love the graphics on the 2023 all over the place. And as long as they'll stay on there and look good, I'll keep them on there. So for the race edition, they do come with a axle puller, so a quick axle puller. That's kind of a cool, I don't know, mod or addition. A little bit of dirt there. I thought it was cleaner than that. All good. There's some thunder in the background. All right. I run SM Pro Platinum wheels with the red anodized hubs on this bike, red anodized spoke nipples, as well as the Bulldog spokes. You can see just how thick these things are. So very, very nice wheel set. It's an aftermarket wheel set. I put the Beta Racing stickers on it just to bling it up a little bit. They've held on quite nicely, and I'm running ultra heavy duty tubes in this setup with Michelin Starcross is what I switched over to on this bike. All right, just moving back on the bike. So nothing else really to take note of other than the fact that on these bikes, you do have two modes. You have a sun mode and a rain mode, as well as you have a traction control mode and well, traction control on or off. May fiddle around with that today because it is raining on me, but I'm still gonna go for a ride because that's what dirt bikers do. Okay, and then moving down, so stock exhaust, stock setup everywhere down here. The other thing I'll add is, I spoke about radiator guards. These are P-Tech radiator guards. Very nice units, and you can see on the newer versions, they actually do the cutout. So many people were modifying them so that they could get better turning radius, but on these ones, they've actually done the cutout. and that is on both sides. You can see it lines up with the fork there, so that was a nice addition on the P-Tech radiator guards. Okay, I am a big believer, as I said in my last video, in metal aluminum skid guards. I just am. I accept the weight penalty for them, but I don't think there's any material out there that guards your frame as well as a nice thick aluminum skid guard. This is an Enduro Engineering skid guard made for a previous year. And what you'll notice on the 2023s is they put this big U in the header pipe. The other ones used to shoot out and come straight across. So what that means is stuff that was designed for these beforehand required a little bit of modification. You can see some wheel grinder marks just to make some room so that I didn't have any touching. But by and large, it was okay. There's also a bit of an L bracket that was on this stock that came up and kind of curved around this frame piping right there. That had to be cut off, or else you'd have to remove the header every time you wanted to put the skid plate on and off, and I did not want to do that. So I did modify it a little bit, but I got it for a good deal because it was leftover stock. The bolt holes and everything matched up. That was the only issue. So it's really just the header that changed for 2023, and that's caused a little bit of an issue fitting some of those aftermarket skid plates, but it's all good. Again, other than that, not really a whole lot different. On this side, you get some of the red anodized bling pieces, you know, a nicer kind of anodized black brake lever, which is a little bit different. You get the Beta factory foot pegs with the pins on there. So those are, I mean, that's a nice addition. These are a much better foot peg than what came on my 300 RR. I really like them. It is quite a bit of a change though. They're thicker, and just, I don't know, the way they sit when you stand on this bike and when you go to use your levers and stuff like that, there is a slightly different feeling than the foot pegs that were on my other one, but generally it's pretty easy to get used to. There's the KYB shock again with the adjustments. I mark mine a little bit just so I can be a little bit more accurate when I'm turning dials, so on and so forth. You know, what I would say right off the bat is this KYB stuff has been super impressive. I really like it to the point where it's made me think of trying to find some 2023 KYB stuff, maybe takeoffs or something to put on the 300, because I really think, especially the shock, I think the shock tracks the ground just amazingly well, and I really like it. So yeah. Moving back again, you get some red anodized stuff, you know, some bling pieces, chain adjusters, so on and so forth. But really, that's kind of the main difference there. Again, you see the SM Pro Platinum wheel in the back. Same setup as the front. Bulldog spokes, red anodized hub. So pretty cool. And then put the rim tape on there. So moving to the back, you get the ZF sprockets, two-tone. So I believe the point of these sprockets is that the internal is all aluminum for weight savings, and then that second black piece on the outside where the teeth are is actually like a steel, or I believe it's steel. And it's you know, that's the point. So you get a little bit of weight savings with aluminum on the inner ring, and then the teeth, you still get the longevity because of the makeup of those teeth being either steel or a different hard anodized, some level of hardened aluminum. But anyway, it's for wear protection. Stock chain setup, no different. Again, on this side, a little bit of red bling parts. You can see here that on my 350, I have the P-Tech guards, but I do not have a fan installed, so I do pay attention to the type of riding I do with this bike. This is designed to be a bit of a high-speed bike, not really for the slow technical stuff. We're going to do a little bit of single track on it today, but I'm going to stick to the one side of our trails here locally that allow me to keep the speed up a little bit. This isn't a bike that you want to be stuck on, you know, hills, revving and slipping the clutch and overheating, that's for sure. Just to pick up another couple things. So again, you get the, you know, the mix of blue and red with the new bodywork. The new bodywork on the 2023s is really nice. I don't know if you can tell, but on the old bodywork, this fin would kind of come out here. So they've tucked it really close into the rads, and then they curve it around the rads to keep the front end looking nice and slim, and you don't get these big wings kind of sticking out, you know, on angles like this, like you do on some of the older bodywork. So, and the nice thing is the 2023 bodywork can fit on my 2021. So that may actually be something I do the next time I need to replace bodywork. Got the stock blue seat cover on here. Again, no ribbing. So this again is another bike where, again, the stock blue seat cover looks good, performs half decent, but at the end of the day, when it gets really muddy, which is not something I typically do with this bike anyway, but when it gets really muddy, you can run into issues with slipping without those grippers on there. Stock frame protectors on the side, I'm already starting to wear those pretty bad, so they'll be replaced shortly. And again, I'm going to go with the R-Tech frame protectors that also have the wing that come up here and protect the subframe, because again, I have this kind of mocked up right now so that my boots aren't wearing into the subframe, but looks a little cheesy, and certainly those new protectors for the price of them will do what I need them to do. So that'll be a mod that comes in the near future. All right, that's it for the 2023 Beta 350. We're gonna hop on this and go for a ride in the rain here. I'll give you a few thoughts while I'm on the bike, and hopefully you follow along. Hopefully you stay interested. Hopefully, you know, you'll like and subscribe if you're not already doing that on the channel. I would really appreciate it. But yeah, let's go for a rip. All right, well, we're gonna see how this goes today. Crappy weather. Got some thunder happening. I'm hoping that doesn't really pick up. It'll be a short ride anyway, I think. So one of the things you notice right away when you get off of the non-race edition, just from a chassis perspective, is, you know, you get on this 350 with the KYB, and you can feel immediately the difference in kind of stiffness, and but still, like when you get on it and you actually start riding it, that doesn't translate into, in my opinion, to a worse ride. It's a different ride, but it's not necessarily worse, especially when you start to push, you know, the speed a little bit. So I have found the KYB to be, you know, on the verge of like, you know, controllable but plush, if that makes sense. So, you know, without using terminology like stiff, I would definitely say it rides higher in the stroke, but it does an amazing job at absorbing bumps. So I've been pretty happy with it. All right, let's get out into the rain, I guess. Try to keep the GoPro clean. Oh yeah, this rain sucks. Okay, I apologize. I could do this another day. We're gonna see if I can get some footage here that'll work for today. Yeah, let's go. Okay, so let's get into it. So first things first, why did I buy the 350 when I already had a 300? Well, it's always nice to own a couple of different bikes. But when I first started riding, I had a mountain bike and a trials background, but I liked kind of the slow stuff when I first started, and I figured, you know, as a dad and as a guy who's you know, not a spring chicken anymore, a 300, get into the technical stuff, you know, would be a lot of fun. And I would probably stick to that. Well, after I started racing, I realized, holy shoot, you know, some of the cross-country stuff and OCMC, and, you know, there's a bunch of different promoters, even the GNCs. And there's the first stall. That's the only thing with this bike. So you do got to watch it in the slow stuff because it wants to go. You got to keep the revs up. And anyway, where was I? Yeah, you know, even GNCC. So one thing I've started to notice is that there's a lot of riding that Canadians can do if you're willing to travel a little bit. And in Ontario, we're well positioned for the east coast of the States for some of the US hard enduros, you know, GNCCs, that type of stuff. She is slippery, holy cow. But like, you know, just as an aside on that, before I get back to what I was just talking about, Listen, I don't know, even with my 300 suspension worked the way it is, if it would have held the ground as well as this thing did on stock KYB rear. I just can't get over how well this thing tracks the ground. It's just so awesome. Anyway, yeah, so, you know, GNCCs, a couple of buddies are going down and doing that stuff down in the States. I figured, well, why the heck not? And then, as a bit of a backstory, I did the first year of Battle of the Prospectors out in Gas Bay, and Beta Canada reached out to me after my video and after my video review of that race, and we formed a bit of a relationship. And so for this year, I was lucky enough to become a part of the Beta Ambassador team. And so it couldn't have lined up any better for the 350. And as a matter of fact, I had a 300 Race Edition 2023 on order. It was the first bike I was going to order. And I changed my mind and went with the 350, and I don't regret it. I absolutely love this bike. Goggles are getting wet here. I'm having a hard time seeing, but yeah. So that's how I ended up with the 350. You know, a little bit of getting used to again, like I said with the 300. But my overall riding skill has increased, you know, pretty significantly, and you know, I find now I can switch bike to bike pretty easy. The main difference, like I said, for the slower stuff is that, and I'll do it more than what I just did today. I will stall this thing, you know, every now and then it'll happen, mostly because my fingers and, you know, I ride my 300 so much that it's just hard to, you know, adjust, and where the 300 will just kind of lug and, you know, do everything super happy at a slow speed. Although this 350 isn't horrible, it needs a bit more input. So even that, and I'll highlight this right now because to me that's impressive, I don't know. But that's on, I'm on Starcross 5s with ultra heavy duty tube on wet rock. That hill probably didn't look like much, but it's a U-turn, so there's no run up to it. It is certainly not momentum that's going to save you. And I mean, I legitimately, personally think that this bike does so well because of the suspension. It just freaking holds the ground and traction over everything. And it just makes up for the fact that I'm running, you know, a tire and wheel setup, tire and tube setup. And I haven't, you know, I'm running probably 10 PSI in the rear. It's not super low. But the suspension just kind of makes up for it. So, you know, this thing with, you know, a moose setup with some sticky tires back here would probably be pretty cool. But I just don't typically run it that way. So yeah, I mean, if you're on a 300, you know, or a 2-stroke, and you find it lugs down real nice, you know, do you get that out of this bike? Yeah. Is it a little bit more high strung? Yeah. Is this super freaking fun to ride? Yeah. You know, am I happy I got it? Absolutely. Do I think I'll, you know, if I had to pick one bike for the type of riding I do, it would be my 300. But as this bike, you know, really kind of taught me, like, I don't, you know, this bike has taught me what real good suspension can feel like. And again, I'm not taking anything away from Kenny and TNT Performance, who did my 300. You know, I just think there's a reason why KYB is so well known. So controlled. All right, let's take a little break here. Wipe off this camera, make sure that it's still working. I think it is. Take my goggles off because I can't see anything out of those. I know these trails well enough to know that there's not much overhang anyway. So, 2023 Beta 350 Race Edition. I've ridden plenty of other bikes. I haven't owned other makes other than I've owned some bikes in the past that owned an old KTM 200, and I had XR80s, and I had some smaller bikes, but I'm just kind of getting back into this as an adult. But am I super impressed with this bike? Yeah, absolutely I am. For sure I am. I absolutely love it. I think it's a great bike. The KYB's made all the difference. You know, one thing that some of you may have heard on different forums and stuff is that the KYB fronts on previous models were a little stiff. I can tell you for 2023, I'm about, I don't know, what am I, about 170 pounds or so. And listen, on the race settings, that's the other thing, the manual for this year for KYB front and rear came out. There's an annex, or an addition to the manual, that includes settings that are like, race, trail, and comfort, I think. So 3 different types of settings to give you start points. And yeah, I think it's, for 170 pounds or so, I think it feels really good. And I don't think the front's too stiff at all. Now again, I like to push pace a little bit every now and then. Nothing crazy, but I do. I'm not I do like kind of more casual rides, but I would say the vast majority of my rides I do at a 60 to 70% pace. Like even there, holy cow, man. Gosh, the suspension is just so good. Yeah, and so for me, I don't know. It feels really good. Maybe if you were somebody who, isn't kind of pushing it that way, it might be a little different, but I think that's maybe why I probably like it so much on my 300 as well, because I tend to ride my 300 the same way. But anyway, engine, awesome. Clutch, awesome. Diaphragm clutch, amazing. Different modes, but nothing too crazy. I think is great. I don't want a bunch of different rider modes. I typically don't go through them. It's raining out right now. I'm in sun mode. No traction control on. I've used it for fun in the past just to see what it was like. I certainly wouldn't say I hate it, but I like to be connected with my bike, and maybe that's an old way of thinking. It probably is. And maybe if I was more competitive, I would change my mind, but I don't do recluse clutches or any of that stuff either. I really like the rawness of motorcycles. And for instance, my street bike that I just recently bought is a GSX-S 750. I'll do a review on that too, but it's got no bells and whistles. It does have some traction control, but I've never even turned it on, and I don't see why I would. Other than that, it's got no real craziness. Oh, Oh my God, this bike is so amazing. Good Lord. I should ride this more. What am I doing? Okay, well, part of the reason, and I'm almost done talking, in all honesty, is because there's a part of me that loves walking into the garage and seeing this thing in all its glory, looking as good as it does. You know, with my 300 sitting beside it, just beat to snot. Amazing. Did you see that? Amazing. Good Lord. Crazy. I really hope that was on camera because that was so smooth. And again, GoPro probably does it no justice, but that is a bit of a, that is a pretty gnarly little step up there that you have to hit with speed and you can't mess it up. Okay, that's going to be it for now. You know, a little bit of a non-standard review. I don't want to get into, I'll post links to specs, and maybe I'll post the spec sheet up on this thing. I've went through it in about as much detail as I think people want to see, and I've given you some initial thoughts, and you've kind of seen this thing at work here. These are single track trails, a mix of kind of, you know, smooth single track with rocky single track, a few gnarly areas here and there. And listen, the 300 eats it up. The 350, once you adjust to it, eats it up. And God, this KYB stuff is absolutely just so nice. I hate to keep harping on it, but Beta, going KYB with the race editions was an absolutely brilliant move finally. Again, I'm not harping on the sack stuff. It's for a different purpose, and I own it. You know, it is what it is. And again, you know, hard enduro, a little bit slower riding. The 300 right now is set up kind of perfect for that. But if you're going to get into the higher end of second or third on trails, and you know, GNCCs and stuff like that, one of these race editions, whether 2-stroke or 4-stroke, just for the KYB makes a massive, massive difference. I cannot get over it. I sing its praises every chance I get because I'm so happy with it. I was going to send my suspension off, and I've decided not to because I don't think I'm using anywhere near its full capability, and I want to keep riding it stock like this before I put money into it. So a little bit of maintenance coming up for it, that's about it, because I just can't get over how good it feels. And I mean, what's scary to me is it's nowhere near, you know, like a kit or you know, a really brilliant, you know, non-standard worked setup, which is crazy. Because if suspension can get drastically better than how this feels, you know, there's suspension out there, which I know there is, that can, you know, do even better than this. To me personally, it's mind-boggling. And again, I'm not trying to like exaggerate here, but I find it so hard to believe that there's suspension out there that could be better than this. Again, I'm not a pro, and I don't claim to be. And, you know, it actually makes me want to see that suspension and ride that suspension, because it's got to be just mind-blowing, because this to me is mind-blowing, you know, with my limited experience on a few different bikes. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, follow the channel. I hope you enjoyed this little bit of a vlog and a review on my Beta 350. And keep in touch. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. My 300 might get a KYB setup next year, you know, or maybe there'll be a 2024 or 2025 300 in the garage in a couple years. I don't know. So follow along, and I'll see you on the trails.